You ever meet two people so alike the world swears they're one soul split clean down the middle? That was Ella and Rowan Vale, born 12 minutes apart. Raised in the kind of cold, wind-gnawed town where legends grow moss before they're spoken aloud. Even as kids, they carried that intangible tether between them. Something deeper than sisterhood, something older than the world itself would have ever admitted. But the truth has a way of seeping out through the cracks oft, at first, then roaring. Their mother used to tell a story, whispered through the kitchen screen door late at night when the wind rattled the gutters. A story about the moon choosing its heirs, never more than one per bloodline. A blessing, a burden depending on who inherited it. But here's the part she never told them. The moon had made a mistake. On the night of their 17th birthday full moon, hanging low and swollen, the twins walked the old quarry rim. They always went there to talk, escape, dream, pretend the world wasn't hunting them the way the town's eyes sometimes did. Rowan was the one who stopped first. She lifted her face to the moon as though listening. "Do you hear that?" She whispered. Ella didn't. But the way Rowan's pupils expanded, the way her breath shook, the way her skin seemed to tighten over her bones like something underneath was knocking. Ella felt it anyway. A hum threaded through Rowan's body, deep, ancient, resonant. Her spine arched involuntarily, like strings pulled taut. The air around them vibrated, pressure shifting as if the sky itself was inhaling. Ella stepped back. Rowan stepped forward. Her voice cracked as she laughed. Confused, afraid, exhilarated all at once. "I think it's choosing me." Then the moonlight hit her, not softly, not gently, not like a gift. It speared her. Her veins lit up gold, racing from her collarbone down her arms, torching her skin with impossible luminescence. Her breath fractured into sharp gasps. Her jaw spasmed as bone reshaped beneath it. Fingers curled, nails blackened. A golden flare burst behind her eyes. Transformation wasn't just beginning, it was claiming her. Ella stumbled backward, terrified yet unable to look away. Her twin, her other half, her always, Rowan screamed. But not in pain, in recognition, as though some buried part of her had always known this moment was coming. The ground shook. Pebbles vibrated. The wind whirled around them, lifting Rowan's hair, like the moon was, pulling the strings. Ella's heart hammered. "Rowan, stop, please, just stop." But Rowan couldn't. The change at her tart, her spine cracked upward, ribs expanding like something inside needed more room. Fur erupted through her skin in trembling waves. Her pupils slashed into predatory gold. And then she turned. Not toward the moon, not toward the forest, not toward the horizon calling her to her new bloodline. She turned toward Ella. And Ella's breath froze because the moon wasn't done. A second hum rumbled through the quarry, lower, deeper, hungrier. And it wasn't coming from Rowan, it was coming from Ella. Her knees buckled, her vision blurred, her skin prickled with the same burning light dimmer, weaker but undeniable. A pulse hit her chest like a fist made of moonlight. Rowan's transformation halted. Mid-dash snarl, the newly born she-wolf stared at her sister, not as threat, but as something impossible, an equal, a rival, a second chosen. Her glowing eyes widened with an instinctive terror that didn't belong to any wolf. She lunged backward, stumbling on half-formed claws. Her voice, half human, half wild, tore through the night. "Ella, no. You're not supposed to." Then she fled into the tree line. Ella collapsed to her hands, choking on breath that wasn't entirely hers. The moon pulsed again overhead, twice, like a heartbeat, like it was correcting a cosmic error, like it had chosen both sisters, and the world would pay the price. The moon does not make mistakes, but sometimes it changes its mind. Ella didn't remember how she got home. One moment the forest swallowed Rowan's half-formed silhouette, her golden eyes glowing between the trees. And the next, Ella was standing barefoot in their small kitchen, hands trembling against the counter, moonlight dripping through the window like molten silver. Her mother stared at her from across the room, not with confusion, not with fear, with recognition. "Which one of you did it choose?" she whispered. Ella opened her mouth to answer, but no sound came out, because she didn't know, because she had no right to know, because the moon had split its claim, and two hearts were beating under one destiny. A cabinet rattled behind them, not from wind, not from settling wood, from something inside the walls. Ella froze, then dash, tap, tap, tap. Three soft knocks, rhythmic, measured, almost curious. Her mother went pale. "No," she breathed. "Not again." Ella turned slowly and realized the knocks weren't random. They were answering her heartbeat. Each strike on the wall pulsed exactly in time with her chest. Ella pressed a hand over her sternum, a place that had burned with moonlight hours earlier. Tap, tap, tap. The wall trembled to something whispered through the plaster, raspy, layered, almost like a voice split in half and echoing back on itself. It spoke her name, not Ella. Ella, drawn out, hollow, hungry. Ella stumbled back. "And what is that?" Her mother didn't answer. She was staring at Ella's reflection in the microwave door, not at Ella. "At the reflection, please," her mother whispered, stepping forward like approaching a wild animal. "Look away from the mirrors. I don't understand." Her mother grabbed a dish towel and threw it over the microwave's reflective surface. "You were never supposed to shine," she said, voice breaking. "Rowan was the stronger one. The moon always picks one. Always. When you both lit at once." She swallowed, trembling. Something ancient woke up to correct it. Ella backed away. "Mum, what woke up?" The walls gave their answer. A long scraping sound like claws dragging down the inside of the house. Structure slithered from one corner to the next. Lights flickered. The air grew cold. Ella whispered, "Rowan," but the whisper that answered wasn't Rowan's. She ran. Ella froze. "What did you say?" The wall pulsed again. She ran because she knows the truth. The moon does not share. Ella's breath raced. She pressed against the opposite wall, heart hammering, but she could feel the voice vibrating in her bones. Her mother clutched Ella's face, gently, urgently. "Listen to me. You must not answer it." "Why?" "Because the one who answers becomes the one it claims." Ella's throat tightened. "But Rowan, she didn't choose this. None of us." Tap, tap, tap. This time it came from the ceiling. Ella looked up. Dust trickled down. Shadow seeped between the beams. Her mother whispered, "It's tracking the stronger pulse." Ella shook her head. "That isn't me." Rowan shifted first. Rowan took the moon's call. Her mother's eyes softened. "You think the moon decides based on order?" Ella blinked. "What else is there?" Her mother cupped her cheek, voice trembling. "It chooses the one who resists, not the one who surrenders." Ella's stomach dropped. Rowan, the bold one, the fierce one, the brave one, had leaned into the moonlight with wonder. Ella had backed away with fear. Tapped. A line of plaster cracked above her heir. Long fissure split open across the ceiling. Dust pouring down like ash. Something moved in the darkness above it. Soft breathing, slow, synchronized with Ella's pulse. Her mother shoved her toward the hallway. "Go now, before it marks you fully." Ella stumbled backward, voice shaking. "Where's Rowan?" "I need to find her, you don't understand," her mother cried. "Rowan is becoming the wolf. She grabbed Ella's wrist. But you were becoming the moon's voice. The house went silent, then a low, rumbling growl vibrated through every wall at once. Ella's hand lit with a faint golden shimmer. The same shimmer Rowan had screamed through hours before. Only this time, it didn't hurt. It felt like it belonged. There, her mother stepped away as though staring at a loaded weapon. Ella, she whispered, your sister's transformation is only half of the prophecy. Ella's breath shook. And what's the other half? Her mother squeezed her eyes shut. The moon doesn't just choose a wolf. She looked up, terrified, certain, breaking. It chooses the one who will command the wolves. Ella staggered backward. No, because that meant Rowan wasn't just becoming something monstrous. It meant Rowan was becoming something that would listen to one voice, hers. The ceiling split open fully. Dust rained down, and a second growl, higher, warped, echoing answered from outside the house. Rowan's growl. Ella's legs nearly buckled. Her mother whispered, the moon chose one to transform, and one to control what they become. Ella looked at her glowing hand, and in the ceiling's shadowed cracker, golden eye blinked back. Not Rowan's, Ella's other half. The first scream didn't come from the ceiling. It came from the trees outside. Rowan's scream, or animal, half human, half wolf, all agony. It cut straight through the house, rattling every window pane, sinking claws into Ella's spine. She staggered toward the front door on instinct sisterpaw, stronger than terror, but her mother caught her wrist again. Ella, wait, no. Ella jerked free. She needs me. Her mother's voice broke. You can't go to her yet. The moon is still choosing. Ella slammed the door open, and the night swallowed her whole. The forest groaned with each of Rowan's screams, as if the trees themselves were bending under the weight of her transformation. Branches cracked, leaves spiraled in chaotic bursts. Animals scattered in frantic synchronized waves. Rowan wasn't somewhere in the woods, she was the woods. Her voice echoed in every direction, warping between pleading sobs and guttural snarls. Ella ran barefoot across gravel and grass, the cold ground biting her skin, but her heart thundering hot enough to drown pain. Rowan, she shouted, pushing through underbrush. The moon above seemed to pulse in answer, once, twice, as if calling both sisters by name. Ella stumbled into the clearing they always met in as kids, the one with the crooked fence post they carved their initials into, the one where Rowan once swore nothing could ever pull them apart. And there she was. Rowan knelt in the dirt, back arched, bones shifting beneath her skin like trapped lightning, her hair matted with sweat, her claws digging into the earth. Gold veins crawled like fire across her arms and spine. Her jaw cracked outward. Tears streamed down her increasingly, lupin cheeks. When she looked up when I was Rowan's, the other was a wolf's. Ella. Her voice fractured. Stay back. Ella stepped forward anyway, pulled by instinct older than her breath. I'm here. I'm not leaving you. Rowan snarled, shaking her head violently. You don't understand, but Ella did, because her own hand began glowing again, brighter, stronger, responding. Rowan's eyes widened. Oh God, it's happening to you too. Ella glanced at her hand, the gold shimmer pulsing like a heartbeat not entirely her own. It's not the same, she whispered. No, Rowan choked, claws sinking deeper into soil. It's worse. A violent spasm tore through Rowan's body. Her spine elongated, ribs cracked outward, fur exploded along her shoulders in a rapid rush. Rowan screamed, but the scream wasn't a plea anymore. It was a howl, and as soon as the howl ripped free, Ella felt it in her chest, a tug, a pull, a command, not from Rowan, From the moon, Ella staggered back, clutching her sternum. Rowan's emerging wolf form went still, her fur lifted in a tremor. Her head turned slowly toward Ella, as if answering an invisible leash. "No," Ella whispered, horrified. "Don't listen to me. Don't you dare." But Rowan rose to all fours, half human, half wolf, trembling with a power she couldn't control. Rowan's voice shook out of the shifting monster's throat. "Ella, please, don't let it make me hurt you." Ella took a step closer. "It's not choosing me to hurt you." Rowan growled, eyes flickering wildly between gold and brown. "It's choosing you to control me?" Ella's blood turned to ice. No. No, the moon couldn't be that cruel. Rowan lunged forward, but not to attack, to try to break away from the pull. Ella raised both hands. "Rowan, stop." The moment the words left her mouth, Rowan froze mid-stride. Her entire body locked like a puppet whose strings had been yanked. Ella gasped in horror. Rowan whimpered in terror. "It's you," Rowan whispered through an unsteady muzzle. "It's your voice. It hears your voice." Ella stepped back, choking on guilt. "I don't want this. I don't want to command you, I want you back." Rowan's shifting jaw clenched painfully. "The moon doesn't care what we want." She let out a ragged snarl, forcing her body to move again, fighting Ella's accidental command with sheer agony. "Ella," Rowan gasped, breaking through the paralysis with trembling limbs. "If you don't learn to control this, you will destroy me." Ella collapsed to her knees. "I'm not controlling anything." Rowan trembled violently, halfway between charging forward and collapsing entirely. "Then the moon will do it for you." The tree shook with another howl, but this one was neither Rowan nor any wolf that belonged on Earth. A third voice, deep, ancient, claiming. Ella looked up between the tree-lined shadows. A pair of enormous golden eyes blinked open. Not Rowan's, not human. Something older. Something that recognized both sisters as belonging to it. Rowan dragged herself backward, fur bristling in instinctive terror. "Ella," she whispered, voice warping again. "It's here for us." Ella forced herself to stand, despite her shaken knees. "What is?" The eyes stepped forward. Massive claws, ancient scars, a wolf the size of a horse, fur shimmering with silver-gold moonfire. The first wolf, the moon's original chosen. It lowered its head, not at Rowan, at Ella. A voice filled her mind. "Two chosen may not live. One must command, and one must surrender." Ella's heart shattered. Rowan stepped in front of her, half-shifted, trembling, brave. "Then you'll have to go through me." The first wolf bared its teeth, moonlight crackling around it. Ella's hand lit up again, brighter than ever, and Rowan whispered, "Ella, whatever you do next, don't let it own you." The first wolf lunged. Rowan lunged. Ella screamed, and the moon exploded with light. Light tore the clearing apart. A violent, silver-white detonation of moonfire that swallowed trees, shadows, breath, thawed everything. Ella felt her body snap backward as if the sky itself had seized her by the ribs. The ground vanished beneath her. Her ears rang. Her vision dissolved into shaking brilliance. And somewhere in that blinding storm, she heard Rowan scream, not in pain, not in fear, in becoming. When the world finally shattered back into shape, Ella lay flat on her back, staring at the moon, a massive boiling disk of silver flame. Branches around her were bent outward, as though every tree had tried to flee. Whatever force just struck the earth. Her chest heaved, her skin burned. Her veins glowed faintly beneath the surface, gold, pulsing like molten blood. "Ella." Rowan's voice, no, Rowan's growl. Ella rolled onto her elbows. and she saw her sister. The transformation that Rowan had been fighting had finished itself. Rowan stood at the edge of the clearing, no longer halfway between forms. She was fully wolf. A towering, silver and black she-wolf, with gold fire flickering under her skin. Her fur bristled in a shifting halo of moonlight. Her eyes, once warm and brown, burned like twin eclipses. For a heartbeat, Ella forgot to breathe, because Rowan wasn't monstrous. She wasn't grotesque. She was magnificent. But she was also terrified. Ella. Rowan's voice trembled through the bond they'd never acknowledged, but always felt. I can't hold it back. Ella opened her mouth to speak, and her words came out as a command she didn't intend. Stay. Rowan's body locked instantly. Her claws dug grooves into the earth. Her breath hitched. Her muscles trembled in restrained agony. Ella, Rowan rasped. Stop. Don't. It hurts when you do that. Ella slapped her hand over her mouth. No, 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 no. The power wasn't metaphorical. It wasn't symbolic. It was absolute. When Ella spoke, wolves listened. Even Rowan, even when it tore her apart. Ella staggered too. Her feet. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. Don't apologize. Rowan squeezed her eyes shut. Just learn. A low rumble shook the forest. The first wolf stepped through the smoke and moonlight. Massive, ancient, its fur shimmering like starlight trapped in muscle, its eyes fixed on Ella with a mixture of hunger and recognition. Ella felt the power inside, her recoil and surge all at once. The first wolf spoke not with its muzzle, but with the moon's own gravity. Mooncaller. Ella stumbled back. I don't know what that means. I don't want it. The first wolf lowered its head. You do not choose, it said. You were chosen. Rowan snarled, stepping in front of Ella, but the first wolf barely acknowledged her. It spoke again, voice echoing through bone and air. Two sisters cannot share the call. One must command. One must submit. Rowan's fur bristled with fury. I will never submit. The first wolf's gaze sharpened. You already have. Rowan lunged without warning. A blur of moonlit muscle and claws, pure instinct, pure rebellion. Ella screamed, Stop! And Rowan froze midair. Her body hung suspended, every muscle locked, every bone trembling, eyes wide with agony and helplessness. A whimper escaped her throat as gravity reclaimed her, and she fell to the dirt beside Ella, gasping. Ella collapsed beside her sister. I'm so sorry, she cried. Rowan, I'm so. Rowan lifted her head weakly. The wolf muzzle brushed Ella's arm. Don't be sorry. Her voice echoed in Ella's mind, soft, fierce, unbroken. Just take control before it does. The first wolf circled them, enormous paws flattening grass and cracking twigs. The mooncaller must bind. The first wolf, it said, and the wolfborn must kneel to her command. Ella shook her head violently. No, I won't force her. You already are, the first wolf answered. Ella looked down. Her hand was glowing brighter, radiating moonlight and pulses that matched Rowan's ragged breaths. Every pulse made Rowan's body twitch. Every twitch deepened Ella's guilt. Rowan nudged Ella's hand with her muzzle, forcing eye contact. This isn't about power, Rowan whispered into Ella's mind. It's about survival. Ella's vision blurred with tears. I don't want you to bow to me. You think I want this? Rowan snapped. I didn't ask to become this creature. But we don't get to choose the story, Ella. We choose how to fight inside it. The first wolf lifted its massive head toward the moon. The bond must be sealed, it declared. Speak the command. Ella's breath stopped. What command? Rowan swallowed hard. The answer was carved into her trembling posture, into the burn in Ella's veins, into the moon's violent hum overhead, into the ancient rule: the wolf obeys the mooncaller. The mooncaller binds the wolf. Ella's heart split open. "No," she whispered. "I won't bind you. I won't trap you." Rowan leaned in until their foreheads touched, one human, one wolf. "You're not trapping me," Rowan whispered. "You're anchoring me before I lose myself," Ella sobbed. "Rowan, I'm scared." Rowan's golden eyes softened. "I'm petrified." Ella lifted her glowing hand. The first wolf's shadow swept over them. The moon flared above. Rowan closed her eyes and whispered, "Do it." Ella inhaled and spoke the words that changed everything. "Rowan Vale, you are mine to protect." Moonlight detonated through both sisters. Rowan howled, not in pain, but in recognition. The first wolf bowed its head. Ella collapsed forward into Rowan's fur as a golden sigil burned into both their skins, and the forest whispered a single truth: the bond was sealed. The mooncaller had awakened. For a long moment everything was still. No wind, no rustling branches, no distant owls or shifting animals. Even the forest seemed afraid to breathe. Ella's hand still glowed faint gold, threads of light fading slowly beneath her skin, but the pulse was new now. Steady, firm, certain, like a heartbeat layered over her own. Rowan's heartbeat. The bond had sealed. Rowan lifted her head first. She was still fully wolf-towering, powerful, fur shimmering with moonfire, but her eyes were hers again. Not wild, not lost, grounded. "Because of Ella Rowan," Ella whispered, voice trembling. "Can you hear me?" Rowan blinked slowly, then nodded. A wolf's nod, stiff, imperfect, but a nod. Ella's breath shuddered out of her chest. Relief, terror, awe, tangled. The first wolf stepped closer, each footfall sinking deep into the earth. "The bond is forged," it said, "Mooncaller, wolf-bound." Rowan growled softly at the title, but Ella pressed a gentle hand to her sister's neck, and Rowan's fur immediately calmed beneath her touch, even as she glared at the ancient beast. The first wolf's golden eyes bore into Ella, not unkindly, but unbearably knowing. "You must learn quickly," it said, "for there was a reason the moon marked you both." Ella's hands clenched at her sides. "Why us? Why twins? Why now?" The first wolf turned away, moonlight glowing along its spine. "Because the moon does not choose lightly," it said, "and it does not choose without cost." He lifted his muzzle to the sky, and the moonlight dimmed. A shadow, thin, swift, unnatural, slid across the moon, then vanished. But Ella felt her stomach cease. What was that? The first wolf lowered his head, a sign of the Sundered Pack. Rowan's wolf ears flattened. Ella frowned. "What is that? Another bloodline?" "No." The first wolf's voice dropped, grave and heavy. "It is what remains when a pack breaks its bond to a mooncaller." Ella's blood ran cold. "You mean wolves can reject their caller?" The ancient wolf's gaze sharpened. "They can try, and when they do, they become feral, lost, driven only by hunger and instinct. They no longer serve the moon only, its shadow," Rowan growled under her breath. Ella reached instinctively for her sister's fur, grounding her. "What does this have to do with us?" Ella asked. The first wolf's eyes narrowed with ancient memory. "There has not been a moon core for over a century. Not since the last one died at the hands of her own Sundered Pack." Ella staggered. Rowan snarled. The wolf continued. "The moon has waited long for another worthy voice. When it saw two hearts, two souls, two halves, it hesitated." Ella whispered, It tried to choose one of us and nearly destroyed both. The first wolf's gaze dropped to Rowan. Wolfborn are not meant to split their allegiance. Then it shifted to Ella, and Mooncallers are not meant to share their command. Ella remembered the crack in the ceiling, the whisper in the walls, the golden eye not belonging to Rowan. She swallowed. So, what exactly did we awaken tonight? The first wolf exhaled, and the night seemed to shudder. The Sundered heard your bond seal. They will come. They will test you. They will try to break your sister from your control. Rowan's fur bristled violently. Ella felt her sister's, feral, sharp, buried beneath defiant send. She pulled Rowan closer, pressing her forehead to Rowan's muzzle. I won't let them take you. Rowan huffed, half a sob, half a growl. The first wolf circled them once, but that is not the greatest danger. Ella looked up sharply. Then what is? The first wolf stopped in front of her, towering, ancient, gaze molten with moonfire. When the moon chooses to, it must eventually decide which soul carries the true call. Ella's throat tightened. You mean the first wolf nodded? One of you will become the next Mooncalor. Its gaze turned to Rowan. The other will become her bound wolf forever. Ella felt the world tilt. No, notched monoxide. That couldn't be their fate. Rowan snarled, stepping forward, but Ella grabbed her fur and held her sister back before she lunged. No, Ella whispered. We're not doing that. We'll find another way. The first wolf shook its head slowly. The moon does not bend because you are afraid. Ella stepped between the first wolf and Rowan. Her voice cracked but held. Then it will bend because we're together. A breeze swept through the clearing, cold and eerie. The moon flickered again. The first wolf's expression changed, softened, almost mournful. You may stand together now, it said, but destiny does not care for your bond. When the final moon rises, only one voice will be heard, Ella whispered, and the other, the first wolf closed its eyes, will be silenced. Rowan growled, heartbroken, furious, impossible. Sound. Ella clenched her jaw. Then we won't let that moon come. The first wolf stepped back into the darkness. You cannot stop the sky, it said, but you can prepare for its judgment. It melted into the shadows. Rowan collapsed against Ella's legs, shaking not from weakness, but from the unbearable truth. Ella knelt beside her sister, tears streaking down her cheeks. We'll choose our own fate, Ella whispered fiercely into Rowan's fur, not the moon's. Rowan pressed her muzzle into Ella's shoulder, and for the first time that night, the bond pulsed gently, not as command, not as power, but as promise. The wind died first. That's how Ella knew something was wrong. One moment the treetops whispered with cold night air. The next, the forest fell into a silence so total it felt manufactured, like the world had been placed under glass. Rowan lifted, her head sharply, nostrils flaring, fur rising along her spine. Her golden eyes widened with a fear Ella had never seen in her sister, not before the transformation, not even at the quarry. A low growl built in Rowan's throat, vibrating through the ground beneath Ella's knees. They're here, Rowan whispered inside Ella's mind. And they were. The shadows between the trees began to change shape, not move change, stretching into grotesque silhouettes that weren't human and weren't wolf. Bodies thin where they should have been strong, limbs too long, eyes burning with gold but wrongdom flickering, unfocused, feral. The Sundered Pack stepped into the clearing. They didn't howl, they didn't snarl. They twitched like marionettes suspended by invisible strings. Ella's heartbeat thundered. Rowan moved instantly between her and the nearest Sundered, her massive form blocking Ella from view. Back away, Rowan growled through the bond. Stay behind me. Ella shook her head. No, I'm not leaving you. Rowan's ears flattened. This isn't a fight, Ella. It's a test. Ella swallowed hard. A test of what? Rowan's eyes flicked toward her soft, terrified, resigned of who the moon will claim. The Sundered Pack circled the clearing, forming a ring around them. Some limped, others dragged claws across the dirt, carving symbols Ella didn't recognize. Every one of them stared at her, not Rowan. Her the unnatural silence pressed in. The moon dimmed again. Even the stars flickered. Rowan lowered her body, ready to leap, but the Sundered didn't charge. They bowed. Every twisted wolf dropped its head to the earth at the exact same moment. Ella's stomach dropped. What are they doing? She whispered. Rowan's breath hitched, waiting. For what? A voice answered, but not the first wolf's. This one was sharp, feminine, icy, and broken in a way that made Ella's skin crawl. For your command, the Sundered parted. A figure stepped into the clearing. A woman, or something wearing the shape of one. Her back was bent unnaturally. Her arms twitched with each step, joints cracking loudly like she'd forgotten how to be human. Her skin was grey-white, stretched thin over bone. Her hair flowed in matted streaks, glowing faintly with moonsickness. Her eyes, oh God, her eyes were gold, the exact same shade as Ella's veins. Rowan lunged forward with a roar, but the creature raised one trembling hand. Rowan's body slammed to the earth, pinned by an invisible force. Ella screamed, "Stop!" And the creature froze instantly. The air vibrated. The Sundered whimpered. Even Rowan gasped as the pressure holding her vanished. The creature's head twisted toward Ella, moving with a sickening jerk. She smiled, then bowed, deeply. Deeply. Double quotes, Mooncaller. She rasped. "We have awaited you." Ella stumbled backward. No, I don't want this. Rowan forced herself up, snarling. Stay away from her. The creature ignored Rowan completely. Her sunken eyes locked on Ella with reverence and hunger intertwined. "We were the pack before the pack," she whispered. "We served the last Mooncaller." Until she demanded the impossible. Her jaw cracked sideways, then snapped back. She told us to die for her. Ella's breath caught. Rowan stepped protectively in front of her. "Ella, don't listen." But Ella couldn't stop. "What happened?" she whispered. The creature's smile widened to wide. "We obeyed." All around them, the Sundered whimpered, claws scraping the dirt like broken memories. And when she perished, we were left unclaimed, unmoored, lost between forms. Her twitching hand reached toward Ella's face. "And now, at last, you have come to free us," Rowan snarled, snapping her jaws an inch from the creature's fingers. "Touch her, and I'll tear your throat out." The creature tilted her head. "You misunderstand, Wolfborn." Her tone sharpened. "There are only two endings for the Sundered." She held up to shaking, claw-tipped fingers. "One, the Mooncaller commands us into peace." Her second finger twitched upward. "Two, the Mooncaller commands us into death." Ella felt the forest tilt around her. Rowan pressed against her side, trembling. "Ella, we don't have to choose. We can run." But the Sundered were already closing in, again slow, synchronized, purposeful. The woman creature lowered herself to her knees, head bowed to the dirt. "Give the command, Mooncaller," she whispered. "Free us from the half-life." Ella shook her head violently. No, I can't kill you." The creature looked up, and her eyes were suddenly so unbearably human. "Then heal us." Rowan stiffened. "She's lying." Ella's throat tightened. "Rowan, how do you know?" Rowan's gaze snapped to Ella, blazing with fear. Because I can feel your command inside me now. If you try to heal them, it'll tear you apart. The creature hissed. She lies. She fears losing her place. Rowan snarled, I fear losing my sister. Ella's heart fractured. The Sundered leaned forward as one, waiting, needing, begging. Ella looked down at her glowing hand. She thought of Rowan, of their childhood, of the quarry, of the bond forming whether they wanted it to or not. And then she realized this wasn't about choosing which pack lived. It was about choosing who Ella was becoming. Ella lifted her hand. Rowan whispered, Ella, please. The Sundered bowed their heads. The creature smiled. The forest held its breath. Ella spoke. Rise. The word exploded like thunder. The Sundered jerked upright, every limb snapping straight. Light burned down Ella's arm, searing her bones with moonfire. Rowan gasped, falling to her knees as the bond roared to life. The creature shrieked half agony, half triumph, and the Sundered began to change. Their bodies convulsed, fur attracting, limbs reshaping, bones grinding. Some screamed, some sobbed, some collapsed. Rowan crawled to Ella, shaking violently. Ella stubbed. You're killing yourself. Ella screamed as moonlight poured through her, too much, too fast. But she didn't stop. She couldn't, because something ancient, something buried deep inside her, wanted this, wanted to claim them, wanted to lead them, wanted to become what the moon had chosen her to be. Her vision blurred, her heartbeat faltered, the world dimmed around the edges. But she held on until the last Sundered collapsed to the earth, panting, trembling, human. Dozens of naked, shaking, crying people knelt in the clearing. Some whispered prayers, some stared at their hands as though seeing them for the first time in centuries. The woman creature stumbled to her feet, no longer twisted, no longer half-wolf. She was just a woman, broken, transformed. Save Dot, she bowed deeply to Ella, tears streaming down her cheeks. My mooncaller. Ella swayed, then collapsed. Rowan caught her half-wolf. Fully desperate, Ella's glowing hand flickered out. Rowan screamed her sister's name into the night, but Ella didn't hear, because the moon had taken more from her than she realized. Ella drifted in a place that wasn't darkness, wasn't sleep, wasn't death. It was moonlight. Endless, depthless, suffocating moonlight, a white sea with no surface, no bottom, only light folding over itself like waves without water. She wasn't standing, she wasn't floating. She simply was, and something vast was with her, not a presence she could see, but one she could feel pressing gently against her mind, ancient, patient, listening. The moon itself, Ella Vale. It murmured, not in words, not exactly, but in meaning. You have called the lost home. Ella tried to speak. Her mouth didn't exist here, but her intent did. I didn't mean to hurt them. The moon pulsed, a slow, descending thrum. You did not. You healed them. You remembered what the last mooncaller forgot, which was silence. Then compassion. The word throbbed through her like a heartbeat. Ella's fear sharpened into clarity. You chose me, but you also chose Rowan. Why? A ripple moved across the white ocean. The world is changing. One mooncaller is no longer enough. One wolfborn is no longer enough. Ella's breath would have caught if she had breath in this place. You mean you wanted to? A slow pulse? No, a sharper one. I needed to. But I only need one to endure. Ella's heart clenched. Endure what? A shadow began bleeding into the edges of the moonlight, a stain spreading across the white sea. The moon's voice, once soft and steady, trembled. The first wolf, kept one secret from you. Ella felt cold for the first time. What secret? The moonlight cracked, splintered, became sharp, the sundered. We're not the only ones who rebelled. The shadow grew until Ella's senses reeled. Another pack broke their bond. Another pack refused the Munkala. Another pack, the voice faded into static. Ella whispered, "Who?" The moon answered with a name that shook the light apart, the Voidpack. The word hit like a blow. A pack without moonlight. A pack without form. A pack that devours bond and identity, a pack that hunts mooncallers. Ella shuddered. Why didn't the first wolf tell us? The moon pulsed weakly. Because they are coming. And because they obey no voice. Not the moons. Not the wolf barns. Not the mooncallers. Ella felt her entire body or soul go cold. Rowan can't fight them alone. The moonlight tightened around her like a grip. She won't. But there is something you must understand. If one twin falls, the other inherits everything. Ella felt her heartbeat echo violently through the white world. Our bond will become a chain or a blade, depending on which of you survives. Ella's voice cracked. No, I won't let the moon choose between us. The moon pulsed with something like sorrow. It already has. The shadow surged, swallowing the moonlight, and Ella's world snapped back into itself. She gasped awake on damp earth. Lungs burning. Rowan cried out, lurching to her side, still in wolf form but trembling as if barely holding it together. Ella. Rowan pressed her muzzle into Ella's shoulder. I thought you weren't breathing. Ella's hand lifted weakly and cupped Rowan's face. I'm here, she whispered. I'm here. Rowan pulled back just enough for Ella to see her eyes. Full wolf, full gold, full fear, not of enemies, of losing Ella. What did the moon do to you? Rowan choked. Ella swallowed hard. It showed me what's coming. Rowan stiffened. Is it the Sundered? More of them. Ella shook her head. No, something worse. The clearing around them flickered with the last embers of moonlight, illuminating the newly healed humans scattered on the ground, exhausted, half-conscious, alive. But the trees beyond them, they had gone still, too still. Like prey scenting a predator. Rowan turned sharply toward the Trillion. Ella. Something's watching. Ella sat up, her arms shaking. It's them. Who? Ella's voice trembled as she said it. The Voidpack. A low, alien howl rose from the forest. Not wolf, not human, not anything nature permitted. A sound hollow enough to strip warmth from the air. Rowan snarled, placing herself in front of Ella. We fight together, Rowan growled. Ella rose, to her knees, the bond between them burning hot and bright. No, Ella whispered. Rowan turned, furious. Don't start that. I'm not hiding while you. Ella placed her glowing hand against Rowan's chest. I'm not telling you to hide. Oh, I'm telling you, she met her sister's eyes, voice breaking. We don't get to fight the old way. Not against this. Rowan froze. Ella continued, tears streaking her cheeks. The moon doesn't want one of us to lead and one to kneel. It wants us both to stand, together or not at all. The forest shook with a second howl. Closer, Rowan pressed, her forehead against Ella's. Then let them come. Ella stood, legs trembling but will iron strong. We're not the mistake the moon thinks we are, Ella said fiercely. Rowan's eyes brightened. We're the correction. Ella squeezed her sister's fur, and together a third howl split the clearing right at the tree line. A dozen, eyes void, black, empty, ravenous, blinked into existence. Ella finished. We choose our own destiny. The Voidpack stepped into the clearing, and the twins braced to face their first true enemy.